Joining us now, Special Advisor Rick Grenell, is Special Advisor on National Security and Foreign Policy, but of course he's been very involved in the efforts to protect election integrity, specifically in Nevada. And in Nevada, a new order came out that there could be this look at, you could inspect the voting machines. This actually goes to the voting machines issue that people talk about. And we wanted to talk to Rick about that, Dad, because this is key, because the machines have been kind of, the left has kind of said, conspiracy theory, and sure, there's been some out there that are kind of wild on the internet, but a judge actually said, look into it.
Yeah, so judges are interesting because, Rick, we got a judge in Arizona now saying, hey, we got to look at some of these ballots. You had a 3% correction rate, or 4% as Harry calculated, where votes should have gone to President Trump out of 100. Now so they want them to look at 2,500. Your team went in Nevada to seek access to the machines. And you got an order. What's been the result so far?
Well, first of all, let's be very clear. The judge said that we should be able to inspect the machines. We presented our case, and the judge said, yeah, let's let them go look at the machines and the ballots. And the team went in there yesterday, and basically the government gave them a tour. They didn't allow them to inspect the machines. And so we've gone back to the judge to say, wait a minute, this is not what your order said. There's a lot of complaints about bring your claims of fraud forward and we'll look into them. And yet what we're finding is when we do, there's not a lot of looking into them. And let's remember that the votes, the ballots, the envelopes, all of this information is being held by the government, by Clark County officials in the Nevada case. And so we don't have access to the perfect information. The government does. And they have a responsibility when we raise these concerns to look into it. And they're dismissing it outright, and they're trying to run out the clock.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. So you get an order for access, and then the access they give you is non-productive because, like you said, it's a tour of the facilities, which does not really tell you what you need. So then the question is, now you got to go back to court, which it sounds like you are, to get the access specific. So the judge has to say, no. They get to check the machines. They get to look at the calibration of the machines. They get to understand the machines. So that takes 2 or 3 more days, and you're inching closer and closer to December 8th and ultimately December 14th. That's what's going on there, it sounds like. But you've got a team that's staying on top of it because now you got the situation in Arizona, new lawsuit being filed in Georgia, 2 in Wisconsin. We still have the stay from Pennsylvania at the Supreme Court. So there's a lot going on there. But let's get into this other.
Well, one more on this because I know people are interested. So Rick, now you have to go back to the judge to say, hey, wait, you didn't order us to get a tour. You said we could get into these machines, and that's what you're going back to the judge to get, so that is it experts can review them?
Yeah, so that we can have experts in the field of artificial intelligence and data processing to be able to look at the details. I mean, look, again, I can't emphasize enough that this is the Harry Reid machine in Clark County. They know how to delay. I mean, the individual who's in charge of the voting in Clark County, the Register of Voters, we've tried to put, again, a judge allowed us to depose certain people and to seek the information. The judge said, go ahead and depose 15 people. He was one of them that we wanted to depose, the Register of Voters. He literally has been staying in his house, avoiding us and delaying us for many days, again, pushing on this deadline. They know the game. We were only able to depose him yesterday after trying to serve him for 5 days. They know what they're doing when they try to run out the clock here. And so I think that it's not fair when people say, well, I don't see any evidence of fraud, when we don't have the ballots or the envelopes to prove any of this. We have the suspicions and the affidavits from people coming forward. It is up to our government to be able to come clean, be transparent, so that we all have a belief that the election is credible. And I think what we're finding is that the government is trying to avoid these discussions. They're trying to run out the clock. Let me just give you one quick example here. I know we want to move on, but a county commissioner's race in Nevada was thrown out by politicians who said, we don't have faith in this in this election. It was too close, and there could have been fraud, and so let's throw out the whole race. We began to use that information with the judge to say, look, there's one race on the ballot, the same ballot where Trump Biden is on, that was thrown out, 158,000 ballots in Clark County by the Democrat-controlled register of voter and county commissioners because they didn't have faith in this local election being fair, only to find after we started using it to say, wait a minute, if you threw out one race, why not throw out all of them? They scrambled, and on Tuesday, the politicians said, you know what, let's just call this race and say that the guy who won. And they didn't check. They didn't do anything different. They flipped from saying that the race was not able to be used. We should do a new one because of potential fraud. And then flipped into immediately saying, oh, well, that Democrat won and let's move on, and there's no fraud there. They didn't check for fraud. They didn't do anything different. They just politically changed their mind on the race.
All right. You served, Rick, as the acting director of national intelligence, in addition to the ambassador to Germany. Bill Barr has changed the status of John Durham from U.S. attorney to special counsel. How do you view this in light of that investigation? And it seems to be focusing more focusing on Crossfire Hurricane that was the spying on the Trump campaign.
Yeah, I'm glad that he did this. And let's also be very clear. He did this before the election. He made clear that it was done a couple of weeks before the election. So regardless of the outcome of the presidential election, this was a move that Bill Barr did. He felt it was necessary. I think having transparency in Washington is a really good thing. And having agencies that are pushed to open up, not over-classify information, to share so that the public can learn exactly what happened, especially in this Durham investigation, I think is really important to protect Durham, protect the integrity of this process. And by the way, it's only going to help both Republicans and Democrats to see the truth and to have more faith in our government institutions. No one should be afraid of greater transparency. And if you are afraid of greater transparency, then that's suspicious.
You know, I think, Rick, on this point specifically, people have said, you know, when is anything going to happen here? When is anything going to happen here? And we have the Adam Schiffs in the past that said, you know, if you try to fire the special counsel to President Trump, we'll just reinstitute an independent counsel, and then you can't fire them. I mean, there is the risk, of course, that if Joe Biden gets in, that they could try to remove a special counsel. But it is fraught with a lot more of political damage. I'm not saying Joe Biden and his team wouldn't do that. And, of course, Adam Schiff will shift on that, as Shifty Shift usually does. But I think it's for our folks out there, they've just been waiting. And I think you know from being on the inside of the intel world that it is very difficult, even for these prosecutors, to get the info out, because you were talking about running out the clock before. I think the same thing was happening with a lot of these agencies, trying to run out the clock on Durham.
Look, I think it's fundamentally important for democracies to have an independent system, the rule of law, where people can petition an independent judiciary and go to court and challenge the rules of government and to be able to have an individual stand up to the government in an independent forum. That is a fundamental right. And it's something that we in America should be very proud that we have. I am concerned that we're growing with our prosecutions more political. And that would include Durham in there. My concern is that the Durham investigation needs to be completely free of politics, that he needs to be free to look at the information and decide independently. A lot of people who know him, I do not know him, but a lot of people who know him say that he is a very good prosecutor, that he's independent. So I want to give him space and not have political pressure from either Republicans or Democrats for him to hurry it up or to rush something. I'm just as frustrated as everybody else that it's not coming, but I've got to be able to make decisions and push towards greater independence, not have political prosecutions, because I think we're having a problem
anxious than we are because you know a lot more than we know. I mean, let's just be honest. You know a lot more went on with that, and I'm not going to ask. That would not be appropriate, but you know a lot more than we'll ever know. Thanks for being with us again, Rick, Special Advisor to the ACLJ.